Good morning. I know it may not be morning when you view this, but still, I wanted to greet you. Um, Mathematics notebook needs explanation. What do I view to do for the mathematics notebook and how it can very positively affect your grade? That's what this is about. Um, to make note of, when you look in the syllabus, the printed syllabus, you can see on there that there's a section in the grading. I grade by category. Chapter tests will count 30% of your grade. And then the notebook, let's try using a different tool here. The notebook will counts for 20% of the grade. Now, that's first of all, that's a big chunk already. Quizzes 20%, final exam 30, fifth of the course, but it can have a greater impact even than that. It allows you to do a form of extra credit, which we will get to in this video. It's a big deal, and all of you want to do it right. And then how are we going to share it in the online format? Those are some of the things we can talk about here. Requirements of the notebook are summarized. There's a document, there's a link to the mathematics notebook guidelines, which is basically what we're looking at. I mean, this has to be modified slightly for the online format. For example, number one, required by everyone. Number one, 3-hole binder required. Well, that's out, because what I normally do with on-campus students, they physically hand in their notebooks on the test on test day. So when we're at the end of a chapter, students physically would hand in their notebooks. I would first grade their test, and then I would grade their notebooks, get them back to the students, and then we could begin chapter. So we're going to hand in our notebooks electronically, so you don't need a 3. But I would suggest any kind of notebook, whatever works for you. And I don't want you to type it. I would like you just to write, keep it legible is important, but not necessarily what some people would call neat. I like it when people write little side comments off on the side. This is a really big one. When a problem, maybe if we go through a discussion, you find out, oh, if I would have just done this procedure right here, that problem would have worked out much better. And you can write that in the, notes, and it turns out to be a real learning experience. So anyway, table of contents required. We'll talk about it in a minute. The table of contents appear in a book, of course, at the beginning of the book. So the first pages of your notebook, eventually, not right away, but before you hand it in the first time, they should be thing a person looks at. Because we're going to be doing this electronically, you might even be able to generate the table of contents. You might be able to generate it automatically using a word processor. But anyway, the table of contents will grow. When we begin, and the first time you hand in your notebooks, there will only be one chapter. Time you hand in your notebooks, you will have 2 chapters in your notebook. So this is cumulative. And so the table of contents grows as the notebook grows. So we need this ability to, be able to insert things. And of course, electronically, that's nice and easy. So I'm going to show you a sample a little bit later. Number 3 says all pages numbered. Use your word processor to achieve that. No, so now let's get to the real meat of it. Notes taken during presentation. So we're down here now. Number 4. To write everything down, that doesn't work. I tried that, and it's a total failure. If you can write as fast as the teacher indicates the material, understand you can. I don't know. For me, taking notes when I tried to take everything down, that I really couldn't listen carefully to and really get into what he was trying to show us. So I will try to prompt you in the beginning, but you want to put down things that are important. And if you don't, I mean, that's one of the reasons I publish the notes from the slides, is that in case you miss, I'd rather have you listen, and maybe if you want to look at a diagram again or a certain page on a certain slide, you can go back and look later. I'd rather have you listen and really get it and hit some important things. So section division and titles, meaning, you know, chapter 1, lesson 1, and then the title of that lesson. Followed by important terms. Let me get my pen here again. So you got important terms. I would like these highlighted the way you want. You can underline them. That's totally up to you. You can underline them or use a highlighter. And when it comes to definitions, don't worry. I am not going to be using the therefore mathematics theorem language. I will be expressing all the terms in my own words. Hopefully that will make them easier to grasp. Then I always do, after we finish or while we're doing a lesson, I always do example problems. And, you know, I would like you to have maybe 2 or 3 examples. Usually I'll do 5, 6, 7 during a lesson. I have them all down, but some example problems would be awesome. Here's an important point. There should be some notes on every section. You shouldn't like sick that week, and so I'm sorry I don't have anything for lesson 3.2. You need to go back and get it, of course, with video and with web resources. You can go back and get notes even if you did have to miss or be behind. When you look on one of the web resources, you'll see I already have notes. Please don't just copy those. I wrote those. I don't want to see notes. Got it. And then after your notes are done for a section, we want you to put your assignments right, immediately following that. So again, let's say you just finished lesson 1.1, then you would say maybe assignment 1.1. And what the assignment is, maybe 1 to 15, the odd numbered problems. And then right there. So the notebook flows from notes into assignments. And it's basically a logbook. It pretty much has everything in sequence. Huge part, as you can see, is underlined here. Now, I'm going to be giving you odd numbered exercises, and the answers are going to be in the back of the book. That's so that you can go back and check, and am I on the right track here? But of course, any work you do, that's really what I want to see. I don't want to see copies of the answers from the back of the book. I want to see how you got there. That's what this course is all about. So even little scratch things like, oh, I have to multiply this times this, you can put that on there too. That's wonderful. From my point of view, that's wonderful. Other people would think that's messy. Anyway, and then as we go through questions and maybe go through things in the next day, the next class, the next presentation, the next video, you might see that you made a mistake. Make some, go write, maybe with a different color, go ahead and write those corrections right in your notes. That's beautiful when I see that. So You know, actually a notebook shouldn't be completely done. I'm completely neat. It should have these add-ons, these notes that you make afterwards. That to me is beautiful. Okay. So let me just show you a sample. What do I mean by a table of contents? So please, this doesn't match our course, but it just shows you how much detail I'm looking for. Of course, if you've numbered your pages, this is so important because you, in a table of contents, you need to tell me where things are. So, those are just samples again in the beginning. Some documents before we began, the course outline, study guidelines. And then, anyway, here's where it really starts. Chapter 1, and it's not going to be equations. That's just a sample. And then, okay, lesson 1.1. What's its title? Okay, I've got terms on page 4. I've got some notes on page 4 and 5. I've got some example problems on pages 5 and 6. My assignment is on pages 6 and 7, and I will explain this to you later, but I've also got some extra credit work on 7. Okay, then comes the next lesson, lesson 1.2. Its title. So this is the approximate amount of detail I'm looking for in the table of contents. Again, please, we're not doing equations. This is not an algebra class. This was simply an example. I had to come up with something from your mathematical past. This is an example. I do give a quiz. I know it's going to be a little different electronically. Sometimes I hand that back to students. So if you see down here on the bottom, person has a quiz there, that would be a quiz I handed back in their notebooks. That's going to be a little different in our case, but okay. Now, when a notebook comes back, I used to hand out a sheet that looked like this as my evaluation tool. Now I do it electronically, but basically the categories are the same. Chapter 1. You guys will hand your notebooks in or get them to me. There are 3 main categories I am looking for in order to give you a notebook grade. Notes, and you notice in parentheses, the main content is orderly and organized. When it comes to assignments, the big one is development work, meaning did you show your work? Completeness, you know, did you do the whole assignment? Did you do all parts of the problems that were assigned to you? And then number 3, organization. You know, what I just showed you, that the section titles, the divisions, like 1.1, is it physically organized? I've actually had students hand in notebooks where the pages weren't in the right order, for example. I mean, that's not organized. Okay, and then, you know, is your table of contents there? Can I follow it? Can I see where, you know, lesson 1.2 is? What page is that on? Can I see where your extra credit work is? So anyway, then I take these 3 grades, the class notes, these 3 right here, and I average them a notebook grade, and that notebook grade is what counts for 20% of your grade. Okay. So, I mean, if you're faithful, you do your work, and you plug away at it, you should be able to do this. You get a good notebook grade. So I guess you could say, in a way, I'm kind of forcing you to be organized, but you'll see, I mean, this definitely will go to your benefit. Not only will you get a better notebook grade, but it will very positively affect your course grade. So notebook is a very positive thing for students. At the bottom here, extra credit, I will explain. Before we do that, I got to show you some more examples. Okay, so now, what I've talked to you about until now is required by everyone, okay? Extra credit, there's an extra credit notebook opportunity. It is optional. Way to literally add percentage points onto your test scores. So here you can see what I have for these requirements. Notes, neat and organized. Require rewriting or typing. They don't need to be typed. I mean, if I need to hire an interpreter, that could be a problem. Every once in a while, I will go to my wife and say, "Do you have any idea what that says?" But yeah, that mostly happens with younger folk. I don't think I'm going to have any trouble with that with you. Anyway, number 2, for each assignment, here's the big deal. Out of the assignment, which usually, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 problems, whatever it's going to be, pick out any 3 of the ones that I assign to you in what I call a 2-column format. Notice it says it is acceptable to choose problems that have been assigned. You don't have to pick different ones. Problems from 1 to 25, you might choose, I don't know, number 3, number 13, and number 23. It's your choice. What I do ask is that you not pick all 3 problems from, pick them from 3 different parts of the assignment. So let me just let's just look down to where my cursor is down here, and you'll see this is algebra again, but I had to do something to show you an example. Here's what I mean by 2-column format. On the left, pen here, but on the left, on this side, step by step, you would actually do your math work. Okay, and then you don't have to, but you can put a vertical line, and then in the column, I love this if you do it this way, to the right of it, you give and here's the extra credit part, give an explanation of what you did step by step. Complete sentences. In fact, the first one is just telling me, all right, here's the problem I picked, problem number 20, page 13. And then, all right, what did I do in the first line down? Oh, I used the distributive property on the left side. Okay, and then what do I do? And so you see how I didn't use complete sentences? That's just fine. So in effect, what I'm forcing you to do a little bit is teach, to explain. And if you look closely, I pretty much hand this to you in the notes that I give you. I mean, I do that same kind of explanation. So I'm forcing you to get a little bit deeper knowledge about the problem you just did. By having to explain it, we'll learn it better. And so besides getting extra credit points, this is good for you. It actually should increase your understanding. Let's see, what do I have on the bottom there? Note. Most example problems in sample problems section of this website show more. So in other words, when you go onto the website, you'll see I do some sample problems. Guess what I do in the right column? I explain what I did step by step. So there are models out there for you if you didn't pick them up from the video. Okay, now I know, what does this look like? So you know what? Well, let me talk about number 4 first. So here's the reward you get. So we already talked about the notebook grade counting 20%. Here's the deal. I will look through your extra credit. By the way, you have to tell me about your extra credit in the table of contents. I will look through your extra credit and I make a judgment from 0 to 10, how many points, how many extra credit points you get. 10, perfect. 0, sorry, there wasn't anything really there that you added. And then let's say you got a +9. What I will do is take that 9 points and add it on to your test score. So for example, if you had a 78% on your test, with the +9 and 87. A full grade on your test. So it's a pretty cool opportunity. And besides giving you extra points, it helps you learn the material better. So it's kind of a double whammy. You get a notebook grade that already counts 20% of your grade, plus you have the opportunity to add points. It can add up to a full grade. By the way, I don't go above 100%. Recommend you not fill up your glass of water past 100% because you're going to wet your clothing and get your tabletop all shook up. And so I don't give a 103. So if you had a 95 and you got 10 points extra credit, I'm not going to give you a 105. I'll give you a 100. So I don't go past 100. Great opportunity. And students that have gone for it have really taken grading stress off of them. And this is attainable by all of you. Your math background is reachable. So now let's look at an actual notebook. So this is one of my students' notebooks from on campus. There's a page number up in the right corner there. And this happens to be a lesson 3.4. Notice she's got the title of the lesson. Now, you aren't going to recognize the content. We haven't had it yet. Chapter 3 does logic, and some of these symbols aren't going to make sense. But you notice she highlighted the terms. Okay? And then still taking notes. Go to the next page here. Yeah, some more notes. And then now she's got some example problems. Three, at least 3 example. So I did a bunch of examples and several of those. And she went even beyond that and did a few more problems. And now she notice that flows into her assignment. So here's her actually I think this was a gal. Now she's actually doing her assignments. And notice the problems are numbered. She's got her assignments. Now here it's hard to show work. She did in a way because she did what's called a truth table. I know you don't know what that is yet, but we're going to be getting to that. So she showed her work. Here's her assignment continued. Okay. Here's where she picked out some extra credit problems. Now, in her case, her right column, she decided to put a green rectangle around. That's fine. Problem number 37 at the top. And here's her explanation on the right. Now, and each person does that. We all explain things a little differently. That's fine. That's beautiful. So anyway, here's one way you can show your extra credit. Excellent job. And then, she finishes up her assignment, and there's kind of a sample lesson for you. So let me just go back to the table of contents. I don't know. And we don't have an opportunity in this format for you to ask questions, but maybe we can do that on Monday night on our first chat session. But anyway, that's my idea. And the idea is after each chapter, you should have your notebook up to date. So at the end of chapter 1, have this thing going to the end of your table of contents should go till the end of chapter 1. It in electronically, and then I get it back to you and you continue it. Working on it. Actually, my ideal is for you guys to use Google Docs to do this, and here's why. Because instead of sending me your document, top right of the screen that says share it with me, And then you can just keep working on it. And in the meantime, I could make a comment or two and tell you how you did, give you grading feedback. This is a living document. It keeps going. We then move into chapter, the next chapter and so forth. And on we go. And here's the best part of the whole thing. The notebook is an possible thing you could have to get ready for your tests. It becomes an awesome study tool. And that's kind of what I was. So I'm trying to force you to be organized and to help you get prepared for tests, quizzes, evaluation, final exam. So I think I'll close up here, but I wanted to give you that's the idea of the notebook. So as you start going through your work, hopefully you can now take some notes and keep track and try to keep on track. And then I will provide feedback for you when we have that first time we hand it in. And if we have some questions, we can maybe talk about them virtual office hours on Monday night. Thank you. I hope this helps.